I'm John Whitfield here for Hollywood Events TV, and we're here with Stephen Day, American singer, songwriter, and serodist. Stephen, how you doing?
Good. Great to be here, John. Thanks for being here.
Stephen, explain to us what you are as an artist, a singer, and a songwriter. How do you see yourself?
Singer, songwriter, writing songs, singing them. As an artist, I combine all three. Sarod playing, which is instrumental, with the mode of singing, which is a whole art form in itself, and songwriting, which is another art form. So as an artist, I would say I'm the combiner of all those things.
All right.
All three.
You have a very unique style. You intertwine a little bit of spiritualism with it, truth, and a journey in your music. All right. Explain that.
Yeah, well, that just happened. Sometimes we become people of destiny without really knowing it, and it takes years to understand what it is that we're on, what kind of path we're on. What the journey is all about. But as they say, it isn't the destination so much as it is the actual travel, the actual journey itself. So I'm here in the moment, enjoying every single twist and turn in the road, and I hope that is reflected in the music I play. I think it's heavily influenced by my travels to the East, which bring out the mystical element or quality in pretty much everything I do.
Mm-hmm. The name of your new album?
Namaste.
Namaste.
Yes, Namaste.
Right. What does that mean?
Namaste is a salutation, a greeting, and it's also goodbye. The light in me shines or bows to the light in you, literally. So it's a very elevated and elegant sign of respect and honoring the spiritual dimension within this. The spiritual dimension in me bows to the spiritual dimension in you.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into our further questions, I want you to introduce me to a friend of yours back there, your Sarod.
My Sarod, yes. Well, that would be a friend of mine that I would be happy to introduce you to. This is the Indian Sarod. It's like a lute, and it has there's no frets. So this steel metal neck provides a space to slide from note to note, much like a dobro or slide guitar in our American Southern music. So use your fingernail. You can use your regular. That's without the fingernail, but with the fingernail.
Wow.
So, have to keep those fingernails nice and smooth.
Tell us a little bit about how you learned to play this instrument in your trip to India.
I went to India on a scholarship. I was invited to India, originally invited to India by a famous and well-known spiritual leader named Sri Mataji. And her brother and she were running a school of music in the name of her father, P.K. Salve. She invited me to come to India and learn Indian classical music and also create more songs. She suggested that I blend Indian music with Western music, and she was very animated about it, and she talked about it, and she was very excited about the possibilities, for my career and my work in blending Indian or Eastern and Western music. So I went and did write an album with different artists at the school, people from all throughout the world who were visiting, teachers that were there, and then I also learned Sarod for the first year. Then I got a scholarship through the Indian Council of Cultural Relations with Amjad Ali Khan, who is one of India's most revered artists, a legend. His family is now 7 generations deep in the instrument, and they're credited as bringing the instrument to India, originally from the Middle East. So it's a long lineage and a great honor to study in India for 3 years with such a great artist, and again a great honor also to have been invited and put in such a kind of connected space. The original invitation from Sri Mataji also led to that introduction to Amjad Ali Khan. It was kind of on a diplomatic level because he had played many concerts for her in England and various other places. That's the story.
All right. You're introducing the Sarod to American culture and to American music. How do you think you as an American give it a different voice than it would have had from someone from India?
Harmony. Harmony, baby. I mean, you know, Indian music in general is kind of a solo trip, and it's melody and rhythm, and it's very complex and very simple. It's very beautiful, cyclical, rhythmic, amazing, intricate. But harmony is not such a you know, a developed entity in music in the East. Whereas our music, of course, you know, three-part harmonies, singing together. We have orchestras that play, you know, one stacked on the other, violin stacked on the other. And so I would say I introduce some elements of harmony as best I can. I sometimes play chords on the sarod. So that's a little different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to Namaste, your new album that you're working on, what kind of collection have you put together for us? I've listened to a lot of the different songs on it, got the feel of them. Mm-hmm. Break that down for us a bit.
Well, Namaste is a popular song format. As a singer-songwriter, you know, I'm well-versed in the format of popular songs, whether it be rock, folk, or whatever, what have you, pop. So what I've done is taken ancient elements like ragas, structures of ragas, adapted them somewhat with the use of modes, which are also kind of Middle Eastern or Irish or Celtic music, and then brought all of that into a popular song format so that people of all ages and backgrounds can just enjoy them as they would any pop song or rock song. And that's the trick with Namaste. My aim is to really bring all these subtle elements of high-level music to people of all background and people all over the world. So that's what Namaste is. It's a salutation and a greeting. Namaste literally is I bow, but the light in me bows to the light in my listeners and my fans, and I hope they take a little piece of the journey that I've been on from these songs and enjoy it.
I listen to a lot of your music, like 11 in Montana, Top of the Stairs, Namaste, and it talks about finding a place at home inside of you, and that's something that everybody can identify with. No matter where you are, everybody needs to find a place where they can call home. But that song kind of teaches you to find that place, no matter where you are.
Yeah, it's true, and that's I do a fun thing in concerts, and I ask people to just take their address, their home address, and put it in the song. And instead of 11th of Montana, they can sing, 5th and Vine or whatever it is, and 48th and whatever it is, because that's true. Wherever you live, you can make that a paradise. That is the place. That is your home. That's your spiritual home. You've gone through a journey, literally, and you may not always realize it. And it may be more dramatic at different times in life. For me, it was very dramatic. I mean, I grew up in Canada. I was born here, grew up in Canada, lived in France, and went to India and went on this big, long journey before I made it back to California, which is where I was born. And so for me, it was a kind of an obvious thing that I had really been on this more dramatic arc-like journey that was very distinct when I made it to California again and built my life here and lived in a place on 11th in Montana, which I really did. That was where I brought home all the elements I had learned abroad, and including the sarod playing and all of the my time on the road, the travel, being on tour, it's great. It's great fun, but it's also unsettling. So it was nice to kind of find a place to bring it all home. And 11th on Montana was that home for me. And it was a place that everything kind of came together spiritually right here in Los Angeles. Nice.
So when you look at your album, what are you trying to bring to the American culture? What do you want people to see from Namaste? Do you want them to learn, to embrace the Indian culture? Or do you want them to open themselves up to new ideas, new realms?
New ideas and new realms. I'm not on an ambassador trip for any particular country. India was definitely a place for me to access deeper realms of my inner self. And I think India's an incredible place that has a centuries-old traditions of not only music but culture and spirituality. So I think it's you don't have to go to India. You can actually just listen to this album. I'm kidding. No, I mean really. I think that people will take whatever they want or can from this album. And my message is simple. It's just art. It's a simple expression of the voyages I've been through, the people I've met along the way. Very important are the stories of the characters or the people that I met that I created characters from and wrote about it in my songs, because I find that those stories are, interesting. They're like different angles of the diamond. My story is one. They have different stories, and I write about those in the songs. And I hope that people can then, reflect upon their own lives, reflect upon their own story, and maybe with that extra spiritual dimension as well that I think these songs bring because of the global perspective, because of the use of ancient instruments. Again, simple, easy to sing pop songs, but yet incredibly deep, with fused with a lot of great ancient instruments, a lot of great musicians and artists that maybe people don't really know about. We're talking about the level of legendary status that, say, Amjad Ali Khan or even Vishwa Mohan Bhatt have in the East and even in the world are kind of akin to say what Bono has here. I mean, Bono is a household name here, or we know John Lennon here. We know names like that are kind of cultural icons. Well, if you can kind of imagine that for some of these artists that are on this album are cultural icons in their own countries and even in other parts of the world. So it's very significant that these great icons have either contributed by coaching me or even recorded on the album in the case of Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, and that they're on the album alongside great artists like Darryl Jones, who played with Miles Davis and Sting and the Rolling Stones and is a great American bass player. I think the fact that they are side by side in songs is a real tribute to the depth of the album and East-West character.
Well, you being a master of such an ancient instrument as the sarod, what do you think about the current music industry with these, poppy songs and everything done with Pro Tools and these things like that? What do you think about the current music industry?
Anything goes. I love music. I've worked in radio. I grew up with all kinds of music. I mean, honestly, I think I pretty much love it all. It's great. Electronic music is amazing. Some of it's cool. I mean, some of it's trance-like and mystical. Some of the new stuff that's coming up, younger generation. It's fantastic.
What did you listen to growing up?
Growing up, well, the classics, including classical music, but also the classics. The Beatles, Bob Dylan, the Stones, and then the Clash and Sting and the Police, and all the stuff that went on in the 80s and 90s, and
Yeah. Tell us about that moment when you were listening to music and you said, I want to write, I want to be a composer, I want to make music.
Yeah, I'd say that it came a little later, because I was into sports and I was into, everything. Kind of an all-American with a dark side was my youth. And anyway, I think a little later, it was really linked, music was linked for me always with the quest. It was always wrapped up in the quest. When I was 18, I had an incredible awakening, like an experience that was like an awakening while I was hitchhiking in Europe. And from that time, I just decided I've got to balance material needs, which I know are a reality, with the sense of inner freedom that I felt. And I knew that music was a part of that. And music was always a path or a way for me to access that inner freedom that I vowed to continue to have in my life, and so, inner freedom is one of those kind of intangible things that's hard to put your finger on. So it does involve a constant sort of quest and a constant journey and a constant sort of how do I kind of access that, questioning mode. And music has always helped me do that. So really, I think that was a key moment in my life, because but it started from, hey, I've got to continue to keep this, spirit, this feeling of my spirit inside of me, manifesting in my life. And how do I do that? Music is a great way.
Wow.
Always.
It's awesome that you found that lesson at such an early point in your life that to actually experience truth. A lot of your music is about truth. And most people, they live a 9-to-5 day where they're stuck in a box and cubicle. But through your music, you can actually allow people to access a portal into that realm where they can just hang out and just and catch and be in the moment.
That's it. Be in the moment. Be there now. And yoga, music, meditation. I mean, when you put all those things together, it's even more powerful. But music of all type, some things more than other. Some type of music kind of makes you get more active physically, and other types of music makes you calmer. But generally, music does open the heart, and once you open your heart, everything seems to flow better. And but music in India, the path that I followed in terms of learning music in India, I learned that the people that pursue music as a life journey are pursuing it as a kind of a quest as well. The quest for perfect sound. And the more you play, the more your discipline comes through day after day, the more that perfect sound starts to emanate from you, and you purify yourself, your soul, your being through your music. So that was an incredible, turning point as well. To realize, this is my path. This is the way that I access. This is the way that I purify. This is the way that I become a better person through music. And that's really my story, as well as the story of many others that are all on the album Namaste. Many of those same stories with musicians that have even a much more advanced and sophisticated careers and abilities than I have are on Namaste, and it's just a real honor that they've taken part in this way, and from East and the West, that both traditions are meeting in this kind of incredible synthesis of sound.
Right, you have a top producer and some pretty good artists on your album. Tell us about your producer and some of the people you have featured.
Sure. I actually have kind of two producers. Matt Forger came on first. He produced, or he was the head engineer of Thriller. Quincy Jones was the producer. But Matt has been a real friend and an excellent person to help me kind of sort through what songs to play and a lot of what the sound needs to be, with an acoustic, electric sound that is rooted in ancient instruments as well. It's a tricky thing to kind of find a way to mix that and bring those things in, and which songs tell the story. So Matt's been a great friend and an excellent person to have on board, and he's got incredible background. Again, he mixed Thriller. He's worked with Paul McCartney, and he's worked with Quincy Jones and all kinds of greats. Another good friend now and amazing producer has been Shankar, otherwise known as L. Shankar, he came from India to America in the early 70s with the Beatles and the Apple records. George Harrison brought Shankar over, and then Shankar worked with John McLaughlin in the 70s in a band called Shakti, and then in the 80s worked with everybody, Elton John, Peter Gabriel. A lot of people remember him from his tours with Peter Gabriel, and then more recently in film and TV on the NBC show Heroes, which was out a few years ago. So a real inspiration. Has worked on my vocals and my recording, specifically on getting the tracks down, getting into a discipline mode of getting the thing finished. Very important, very important.
Stephen, taking an ancient instrument such as the sarod and implementing it into new music. Now, what is your process that you go through as you write?
I work on the piano, the guitar, and the sarod. And, the ideas might come from any one of those three instruments at any given time. But once I've got the basic melody or chord structure, then I go and play it on a different instrument. So let's say I start working if I'm on the piano and I come up with a melody or a chord pattern. A lot of times it's a chord pattern first. Then I'll go and play it on the guitar. And in some cases it's going to work on the sarod, some cases it won't. Not every song is a sarod song, but there are songs that really do lend themselves to play on the sarod. Songs like In My Life by John Lennon. I do a lot of cover songs now on sarod. I call them sarod songs. Beatles on sarod, and Tracy Chapman on sarod, believe it or not. I mean, sounds crazy, but it works. And when it works really well, because the sarod brings out kind of a mystical quality that some songs lend themselves to. So.
Okay, you said Tracy Chapman. Tell me you have Fast Car on sarod.
I do. Fast Car on sarod.
Let's hear a little bit of that. Can you
okay, I have to remember it. The rest I'd have to sing.
I was just about to join you. I had to hold back just for a moment.
You've got a fast car, I've got a train to get us out of here. We've got to take a decision. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Right, very nice. This is not your first. This is not your first project either. You've also done these 4 movies. You've done you've done movies before. You've done other projects. You've done soundtracks.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about your composing duties so far.
Yeah, since after I lived in London and I composed a lot of music that has been used on the BBC and TV and films and across the world, and then I moved to LA and worked in film and television, and my stuff you can find it on Mad Men. There's some music on Mad Men that I composed. America's Next Top Model, a film called Formula 51 with Samuel L. Jackson, and then some independent films like Naked and Ashes and Waking Dreams, and yeah, the full deal, not just Sarod but also orchestral work. And as a composer, you have to work with small orchestras or orchestral scores and that kind of thing. So I do have a background in education and music, Western classical music as well, on classical guitar. That's another dimension that I bring. I add some of that into Namaste as well. There are there's a quartet that plays and some French horn on a couple tracks. So I throw it all in there.
All right. You also created a nonprofit called Ambience Incorporated.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that and how it helps other artists like you do what they want to do.
Ambience, yeah. Ambience with an O is self-reflection through the arts. And so we'll do things like bring Indian classical artists to high schools in the States. We'll put on house concerts with singer-songwriters from places like Greenland who have a message that want to help save the planet. And we self-reflection is the key. We're always doing something conscious, and that's what Ambience does mainly. A lot of events, but we're also looking into working with different organizations. We actually held a concert at the United Nations a few years back, international and global consciousness. And we're looking to partner with a lot of different organizations over time, and we'll see where it takes, where the journey goes with Ambience. But it's a wonderful thing to be able to give back after you've worked in the industry, or you've traveled and toured, and you've recorded and studied with incredible masters. It's a great feeling to then give back, whether it be to kids or other artists. And Ambience is a great 501c3 nonprofit and a great way to do that. So.
All right. Stephen, you've already accomplished a lot in the music industry and worked with a lot of great artists. What do you want to do next? What do you see next for you?
I want to get the album Namaste out, finish it, and we're running a fundraising campaign to get that done. Finish recording it, tour extensively, and I also want to put out, I've got a few other albums that I want to get done. I want to play a solo album, solo Sarod for meditation. The Sarod lends itself perfectly to meditate and also yoga. So I'd love to get a lot of times people ask for my instrumental, just the music where I close my eyes and play ragas, and I'd like to do that. And then I have another album which is just American songs. I call it actually World Americana, and I'm not really using world instruments in that. That's kind of more mainstream, but it's really a kind of bare my soul album, kind of like Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan and various other albums where the artist really is getting into their message as a person. No big East-West message on that one. Just pared down band, Western instruments, me as an American, and what it's like to be an American, and the tender things that come out of those reflections. That's a different album though, and that's down the road a little bit. Yeah. So.
What kind of advice would you give to up-and-coming artists, musicians, songwriters, composers?
I'd say go to India for 3 years. No. I'm kidding. I would say never. Well, I know these things sound like cliches, but they are so true. Is just never give up. You never give up. It doesn't mean you can't be flexible and you can't do other things and look, get a job and look at things in a different way. And it doesn't mean that things won't come through in a completely unexpected fashion, because they do. Do the right thing in life, and the music will flow from that. That's really what my teacher, what Amjad Ali Khan, taught me as well. He said, live a good life, be a good person, and then music is like an ornament to that. It adds such beauty on top of your already solid and beautiful life. And I would say yeah, live a good life, and then let music adorn it with incredible, feeling, emotion, and beauty, and never give up on your dream, man. That's for sure, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I take that advice, Stephen. Thank you for an awesome interview.
Thank you.
Today.
Hey, nice to see you. Thanks so much for coming in, John.
Thank you.